Just a few pictures of the desserts that we'll be doing in our next couple of video demonstrations, simply with the goal of wanting to tempt you to really try these things. This is our apple d'Artois. This is the Tarte aux Pommes Rissolées, Tarte aux Pommes Quadrille, the Tarte Hollandaise, and the Conversation. Hello and welcome to A Baker's Passion. I'm Ray Madursky, and today I'm continuing in our little series, as it were, about using puff pastry. I'm going to demonstrate how to put together the Tarte aux Pommes Rissolées. It's an apple tart, but it's the modern version of what the tart, aux Pommes Quadrille is. Okay, it's sauteed apples, but rather than just kind of being tossed inside the pastry shell, we stand them up. And I'm basing this on the work of one of the great young stars in pastry, Jean-Luc Poujorin in Paris. And I got this idea from seeing the way he does it. There are all different ways you can do it. The thing that's kind of unique too is that there's a little bit of an almond cream in the bottom, but it's a very modern concept on the almond cream. It's an egg, a whole egg beaten, and you put some almond meal into it, or you could use ground toasted almonds, but I just like to use the almond meal, some rum, and some vanilla, and it's dynamite. This really is an exquisite modern dessert, and I think you're really going to love it. The fruit all stands up. You bake it real hot, and then you turn the oven down a little bit so that the bottom of the pastry bakes. And then there are two ways you can present the tart. I personally, this is the kind of a tart that I think apricot glaze goes beautifully on. So I like to glaze it most of the time. But if you don't want to do that, all you need to do is take some powdered sugar, sprinkle it on the finished tart just before you serve it. This is one dessert that I think if you're trying any of these recipes, you'll see the most important trick in using our puff pastry is really allowing it to rest. You do that, you can do anything, guys, I promise you, okay? So I really hope you'll look at this video, number one, and number two, really try the tart. It's a knockout, and it tastes so delicious. Very little sugar, you know, it's amazing, and the result is so dramatic. It's one of these things, you bring this to your table and present it and say, hey, here's the tart I made for dessert. You're going to knock everyone's socks off, and I promise this is a showstopper. So let's get started. Okay, so now I'm going to brush the excess flour off the dough. both top and reverse side. So I want to get every last bit of flour off the dough. Okay. Now I'm going to take my docker and dock the dough in two directions. Now I'm going to lift the dough and place it into the pastry tin, tart mold. Here's my tart mold, lightly buttered, and in goes the pastry. Folded it approximately in half. Now what we want to do is really make sure we're not stretching the dough, but we are pressing it to fit the shape of the mold. When you get to this point, as long as the dough is still a little cool, this dough is actually easier to work with than most sugar doughs. I know that sounds wild and incredible, but it's true. So I'm just making sure that it's filling in the mold completely, the tart ring completely. Now, okay, it's a little bit short here, so I'm going to show you how you can deal with that. Now just take your rolling pin, run it right over the top of the tart, and voila, we're ready. Now to fix this little area where it is a little bit short, we're going to dab some water onto our finger and just dab the dough. We're going to take another piece of dough and just glue it right on there. So we're just making kind of a minor repair. And that's it. Okay, so our tart shell is ready to go into the refrigerator and rest for probably a good 2 hours. So just another reminder, cut the halves into quarters, the quarters into eighths, and then into a bowl with some water and acid, and I use the lemons to do that. Now we'll get ready to saute them. Okay, I have butter I've melted. Now I'm going to throw a little bit of sugar over the butter and allow it to caramelize. Once it's caramelized, I'll throw on the apples and saute them. Okay, the sugar is starting to caramelize. So very soon I'll put the apples into the pan. And I'm doing the apples in thirds. This is 1/3. I have another pan, we'll do another third. Because you don't want to do them all at once because they'll just steam. Alright, so here go the apples. And all we're doing is a really fast swirl in that caramel and butter. And then we're going to finish with just a quick glaze of rum. And I use dark rum. I use the Myers. Be careful because the rum will flame if you're not. Please be careful. So just be careful. And that's it. This quickly is all you have to saute the apples. So these guys are ready to go now. Now I've cut all the apples, I've saved the centers, and what we're going to do is start standing this eighth sections up. You want to save the trimmings because in the center we might need to fill in some space. I used 9 apples. This is an 11-inch tart ring. So you might buy more apples, you can do whatever you want, but I used 9 apples here, and that's usually what I do, and I usually wind up with a little bit of a empty space. So you see what I'm doing, we're just going to do concentric circles and go all the way around, and then we'll put an inner circle and then a third circle. Okay, I'm just going to scatter the remainder of the sliced apples. You probably, if you use an 11-inch pan, you might want to go with a dozen apples. But I kind of like the center of the tart looking piled and funky and things. So there we go. Our beautiful Tarte aux Pommes Rissolées will now go into the oven. I hope this video has been helpful in demonstrating how to put together one of these apple tarts. The Tarte aux Pommes Rissolées is really kind of a modern tart that's pretty much based on what Le Nôtre did with the D'Artois, and before that, the Tarte aux Quadrille is probably the inspiration for all of these variations. This tart I've based on the work of Jean-Luc Bougerin in Paris, who is an incredible baker and probably the shining bread maker. He's a boulanger and pâtissier, and he's really doing amazing work. And this, when he had his shop, was one of the tarts that he had developed. I've done it a little tiny bit differently, but basically it's his idea. So this is a real stunner, and we're really now starting to blossom and go out there and really experiment and gain courage and skill as we use these recipes. So I hope you'll try this. It's an amazing dessert. 2 ways you could finish it. I decided to glaze with apricot glaze, but if you don't want to do that, just sprinkle some powdered sugar on it, and it's really dramatic. So for Baker's Passion, I'm Ray Medersky, and please visit my blog at www.bakerspassion.com. When you're there, try the recipes, see what you think, give me any feedback or any special request that you'd like or might have. And in the coming couple of months, we'll probably work on things like croissant and Danish pastry. Probably the first thing we'll do is tackle Danish pastry, and that's really, it's a lot of work, but it's not daunting. So I think it's something that we'll have a lot of fun doing, and I hope you'll like my videos when you see them on YouTube. Now, the best part of the day, I get to taste this amazing dessert. And this probably is the Quadrille, the D'Artois. They're just so fresh and they taste like apples. You actually feel like you're chewing on an apple, just slightly tart, slightly sweet, not sweet the way we make apple pie. And this is even better because of that little layer of the almond cream that goes in the bottom of the tart. So here it goes. my opinion, this is the most sublime dessert with apples, fruit tart, you'll ever find anywhere on the planet. So for Baker's Passion, I'm Ray Madursky. Have a great day and enjoy your baking.